Hey, let's talk about the Voting Rights Act. So the Voting Rights Act, it's this law, right? It's laws, they don't do much by themselves. They need someone to enforce them. So that's where you come in. The Voting Rights Act needs you. Well, it's kind of a mouthful. It's also kind of complicated. So here's the short version.
Us.
In the not-so-distant past, southern states passed laws called Jim Crow laws. It also made it so that states with a history of discriminating against voters had to get permission from the federal government before changing their voting laws. That part of the law has since been weakened. States no longer have to get permission from the federal government. Maybe you feel like just one person, you can't really make a difference. But here's the thing. We're not just talking about one person here. We're talking about us. We are powerful. Together our voices can change things. Together we can hold people accountable. This has allowed some states to pass laws that make it harder to vote. Those laws are designed to make it harder for African Americans to vote, even though the Voting Rights Act says that can't happen. These laws made it illegal for African Americans to vote. Things are still happening to make it harder for African Americans to vote, and the only way to stop it is if we all pay attention. The only way to stop it is if we speak up. We're making this video so that you know that you're not alone. If we all work together, we can make sure that everyone can exercise their right to vote. So if you want to know what you can do, just ask. Just ask and we'll tell you. We'll find something for you to do. Because the right to vote is the most powerful tool we have to make sure our government represents all of us. And that's why the Voting Rights Act needs you. We're making this video so that you know that there are other people out there who care. We're remaking this video so that you know that there are other people fighting for the same things that you're fighting for. The only way to stop it is if we hold people accountable. They couldn't vote if they were sharecroppers or tenant farmers. They couldn't vote if they were, related to someone who was a sharecropper or tenant farmer. They couldn't even vote if their grandfathers had been enslaved. Literacy tests and poll taxes were used to keep African Americans from voting. Poll taxes were like $2, which isn't that much money, but for a poor sharecropper, it might as well have been $2 million. Literacy tests were designed to be confusing and sometimes dangerous. If you failed a literacy test, you might have to repeat it again and again and again until you got it right. Or if you passed the test, you might find out that the voting place was closed when you got there. Or maybe you'd find out that your name wasn't on the voting list, even though it should have been. And sometimes people who tried to vote were just plain beaten up. All right, so let's get into it. What does the Voting Rights Act actually do? But there's a little more to it than that. You see, the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was the product of the civil rights movement. It was the kind of thing that couldn't have happened without the movement. It was especially the product of the events of March 7, 1965, otherwise known as Bloody Sunday. On that day, a group of about 60 civil rights activists set out to march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama. They wanted to go to the state capitol to protest the right to vote. They didn't make it across the bridge. They got beaten up pretty badly. You can look it up. Television cameras were there, though, and the whole country saw what happened. A week later, more than 25,000 people marched from Selma to Montgomery. And by the end of the year, President Johnson had signed the Voting Rights Act into law. So that's what the Voting Rights Act aimed to stop. It outlawed those discriminatory voting practices. That's the short version. The act outlawed discriminatory voting practices in federal elections. So that's the long version. And it shows you why the Voting Rights Act needs you. I know that's a lot to put on one person. So that's why we're doing this. That's why I know that can make a difference, because I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen in my lifetime. And if you want to help, there are things that you can do. There are always things that you can do. This project is supported by a grant from an organization